Hello and welcome to Power Rankings. I'm your host Jessica Kinney and I give you the rundown on how the power shifts from week to week on Game of Thrones. This week's episode was the House of Black and White, where we meet up again with Jaqen H'ghar. Speaking of, I wanted to give a shout out to Jaqen. I have very little knowledge about this mysterious man, but what I do know is that he is someone to watch. Anyone that can disappear, change their face, and kill multiple people without anyone noticing is worth at least a mention. Next, we have two honorable mentions this week. The first goes to Arya Stark. She may not have any actual power at the moment, but her drive and her want for revenge make her someone to watch. Plus, she happens to be one of my favorite characters, and I can't wait to see what happens to her in Bravos. Next honorable mention is Stannis Baratheon. Even though we didn't see him a ton this episode, he's still one of the most powerful people on the show. And don't worry, Stannis and Melisandre, I have no doubt we will see you rising up the ranks soon enough. Moving along to the list and making a first appearance on Power Rankings at number 5 are the Martells of Dorne. I don't know exactly what they plan to do, if anything, about avenging Elia and Oberyn, but clearly Ellaria is ready to take action. She has already mentioned to Doran that she and her Sand Snakes are going to do something if he won't. That doesn't look good for Myrcella. Anyone else seeing a Sansa Stark situation here? Speaking of Sansa, that brings us to number 4, Petyr Baelish. He now has complete control over Sansa and can do no wrong in her eyes. Not to mention, he is guardian to the Lord of the Vale. We still don't know where he and Sansa are going or what his ultimate plan is, but rest assured that it has been very well thought out. His ability to play the long game makes him a silent but deadly power. Someone who cares much more about the short game is number 3 this week, Cersei Lannister. She's time after time shown that she will fight for herself in her own tooth and nail. She's fighting right now by taking temporary position as the king's hand and trying to take charge in King's Landing while Jaime goes to retrieve their only daughter from Dorne. She's still the mother of the king and will abuse that power as long as she can. Someone who is finding out the hard way how to act when in power is my number 2 this week, Daenerys Targaryen. She just publicly executed a freed slave, and the crowds are starting to turn against her. This is relatively new ground for Dany, as she's mostly been revered by her subjects up to this point. I mean, the way in which she handles herself in the next few episodes will either make or break her power. Without her dragons or the proper advisors, it's a long fall from number 2. Plus, we got to see that Drogon is still feeling like he doesn't need her as a mother right now, apparently. Someone else who doesn't need a mother is my number 1 pick this week, Jon Snow. Gives me great pleasure to finally have a reason for Jon to be at the top of the list. The men of Castleback are finally giving him the post he's worthy of, Lord Commander. Jon has the influence, the training, the drive, and the natural leadership qualities that are much needed to control the wall. It isn't going to be an easy ride, but Jon is so easy on the eyes, I don't mind keeping a close watch on him. Anyway, that's all for this week. Thanks again for watching, and don't forget to check back next week to see who's got the power. For more Behind the Throne Power Rankings, subscribe to thestream.tv.